Blessed be the name of the Lord. Today I want to talk about Genesis 6, where it says in 6:3, "The Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is flesh, his days shall be 120 years. There are different explanations for this verse. Some people say that this is the time until the flood, from the life of Noah, from the moment of this announcement. And some people say that this is the limit on human life, on the lifespan of human beings, which I agree with the second explanation of this, and I want to tell you why. And also I want to say that some people might be thinking, why talk about Genesis 6? We have so many problems on earth right now. How is this even relevant? But interestingly, Genesis 6 is 6:1. Well, actually the whole chapter of Genesis 6, it has a lot of connections to our present day, because it talks about the days of Noah, and Jesus said that the last days will be like the days of Noah. And it talks about the Nephilim, which is quite relevant to us, because if it's going to be like in the days of Noah, then we're going to have the Nephilim show up on earth again. And then also the time limit, the limit of human lifespan, is also relevant to us, strangely. So first of all, some people say that this is not about the length of human life, because in Psalm 90 it says that the years of our life are 70 or even 80 by reason of strength. And yes, it says that in Psalm 90, but that's how many people live. That's how long some people live. Many people live. Actually, the life expectancy in the United States and Canada is going down right now. So it used to be closer to 80 years. Now it's going to be closer to 70. I see a lot of people dying at 70 now these days because of, many reasons. It's not just the COVID shots. It's also the pollutants, bad food, and so forth. A lot of chemicals everywhere, in the air, in the water, in food, GMO foods and things like that. And so many people do live about 70 or 80 years, but that's not the time limit. It's not the same thing, right? Genesis 6:3, that his days shall be 120 years, that means that that's the maximum. And you can actually check that when you look at the oldest people living on earth right now. They are not older than 120. If somebody claims they're older than 120, usually they cannot prove it. Their records of the birth records are lost or something like that. And yes, lots of people live 70 or 80, but there are people who live longer, quite a few people, especially Jewish people. I used to work in a Jewish senior home, and I personally knew many Jews who lived to 105, 104, and so forth. Many people live to 95. So Psalm 90 does not really tell us that everybody's going to live 70 or 80. Some people live only up to 40. Some people die at 30, right? Some people die at 55. But the maximum is 120. Now, other people bring up the supposed length of generation given by the Bible, which is, I think, 40 or whatever they say. Well, that means that people reproduce a new generation. They have kids who grow up by the age of 40. So there's new people, the new generation coming up every, let's say, 30, 40 years. Still, not the limit. What this is saying, in one sentence, why did God put this time limit on people? Why did God mention 120 years? It's because his spirit shall not strive with man forever. Well, forever is a long time, but basically back then, lots of people lived up to 900 years, 700 years, 500 years. Those were that was the usual length of time for back in those days. And then the sons of God showed up. Those are the fallen angels, that Genesis 6:2, and they took human women as wives, and they produced hybrids half human, half angelic, called Nephilim. Nephilim means giants in Hebrew. And it says Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterward. Those Nephilim, they are described in Greek mythology, in ancient texts, in ancient traditions. They were the powerful men, the heroes. The Greek mythology describes them as heroes. That's the name used for them. And also talks about them as semi-gods, demigods, and demigods, because they were not fully angelic and they were not fully human anymore. They were hybrids. But yet they were getting big heads and they were getting really full of themselves, although they were mortal. God says they were flesh in Genesis 6:3, but they were getting big heads and they thought that they would rule forever. And because of the length of their days, like naturally people would live to a few hundred years, and those Nephilim, they might have lived longer because they were stronger. And God didn't want to strive with them forever. God actively opposes evil in the world, and I imagine there's enough work to actively oppose all the evil in the world as it is, not to have extra work opposing these giants who were supported by their fathers, the fallen angels, and probably some humans were assisting them because they tried to get to power. They were basically sucking up to them and trying to help them. And imagine how well established those giants would be when they were more powerful than humans. They could live for hundreds of years, and they wanted to rule people and enslave humanity on behalf of Satan. Imagine how much damage they would do to us, to humans. They would be able to grow their roots so deep that we couldn't uproot them like bad weeds. You couldn't get rid of them. They would be able to do so much plotting and machinations, create many alliances. They would be basically unremovable. Think about Obama's and Biden's or Clinton's if they could live for 900 years. How well established they would be. They are difficult to defeat as they are. And if they had so much power and a very long lifespan, then basically they would take over the whole earth. Imagine if Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates could live for 700 years, then Amazon and Microsoft would have destroyed any remaining business on earth and create complete monopolies and control every aspect of life. So with the death of those rulers, we get a little bit of a breathing space, and then there's a little reset, because every time a dictator dies because they lived like dictators, the next person is often unwilling or unable to continue their oppression, and we get a little bit of a reset. So they had big heads. They try to, and there, by the way, there are records about those Nephilim back from the day. When you look at the rulers, drawings or sculptures from the Sumerian, Mesopotamian times, you see these creatures that look like aliens with very big eyes, and they were larger than humans. And God needed to remind them that they too were mortal. The fallen angels are not mortal, but the Nephilim were, because they were only semi-gods. So they needed to know that they are only flesh in the end, although they had extra powers, but they were still only flesh. So that's why God put that time limit, so they could not establish themselves. And those were the connections to today, because we live in the days which are like the days of Noah. The Nephilim will be here again. And also, the rulers today, although they are very frail flesh, like Gates and all that, the Silicon Valley and all of that stuff, they still try to become immortal. They imagine themselves to be as big as gods. And I can tell you that now for sure that they will not succeed with their life extension programs, whatever it is they are planning. Whatever those programs are, be it through implants like Elon Musk is doing, or through genetic modification like there are a few different ways they try to become immortal, but they will not succeed because there is a time limit of 120 years on human life. And that's why this has a relevance to our days. They will fail. Elon Musk will not succeed. And this is all for our benefit, because if they were able to establish themselves and live longer than everybody else, then they would be able to strengthen their hold on everything, control of life on any level, and they could not be removed. So praise God that He declared this limit on human lifespan. And that's the explanation for Genesis 6. That's all I have for today. May the Lord richly bless you from Zion. Take care. Bye-bye.